I would like to welcome everyone to the Roxboro Roundtables. My name is Jessica Putman, and I am the student coordinator for the tables. Today, our topic is developing global fashion study abroad programs, and our host today will be Nioka Wyatt.
Thank you, Jessica. Again, I'm Nioka Wyatt, Associate Professor in Fashion, Merchandising, and Management.
I'm Martha Carper from the University of Delaware.
I am Tom Fong. I'm part of the Global Fashion Enterprise Program. I'm also an understudy of Professor Wyatt.
Don't even try it.
I am Dominique Williams. I'm here from Virginia, and I'm just taking part in this discussion today.
My name is Melinda Villard, and I'm a student here at Philly U studying that Global Fashion Enterprise.
Hi, I'm Megan. I'm an undergraduate senior here at Philadelphia University, and I'm studying fashion, merchandising, and management.
My name is Elle Abby. I'm a grad student in Global Fashion Enterprise.
Well, thank you to all my esteemed guests for joining us today on such a really wonderful and exciting topic. So again, this is Nioka Wyatt from Fashion Merchandising and Management, and I just wanted to start with an overview of the program that Tom and I have been doing since 2000 and, correct me, Tom.
Nine? You started. This is Tom Fong, and I want to give credit where credit is due. Nioka was the first one. She was the pioneer to start this program in 2009.
And then Tom joined, and we've been doing it ever since, and it has been quite a successful program, and I'm completely thankful for him. I'm his understudy now, although I do tease him because I know more people in China than he does, and he's from Hong Kong. So I just wanted to share one of the questions that I'm always asked is, how did I get the idea to start the short course? And I'm a graduate of Philadelphia University. When I went here, my major was fashion apparel management. And after I graduated, I worked for QVC in the operations department, and I was responsible for quality assurance. So my role was to evaluate all those wonderful products. I actually served as, the eyes and ears for the consumer because they weren't able to touch and feel the products. So it was my job to make sure whatever we were claiming the products to do, they had to actually perform and function in that manner. So one of my greatest roles was having the opportunity to travel to production facilities to evaluate the products, look at the quality, look at the seams, and just evaluate the factories overall to make sure there were no inhumane conditions going on. And China was one of the fantastic places and countries that I was able to go to during my time at QVC. And I'm truly thankful to them for giving me such a remarkable opportunity. So when I started teaching here at Philadelphia University, I realized that something was missing from the program, and it was the ability for students to go abroad. When I look back at my career, I realized, and I thought about what made my career go from, from just having a simple knowledge of fashion to a very holistic knowledge of what fashion was like on a global scale. And when I look back, it was that opportunity to go to China. So I called my VP, Bill McGrath, one phone call. He made the phone call to China, and then here we are almost going on 7-8 years later. Now we have about 30 students signed up for 2016. So it has been a very successful program, and I'm just completely thankful. We've had some remarkable students join us over the course of the years who are here today: Melinda, Megan, and also Elle, first time in China. So before I continue, I also wanted to give Martha an opportunity as well to just talk a little bit about her program, and of course we'll go back and forth a little bit and share some of the similarities and differences between both.
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, I want to say thank you for being such great hosts and hostesses here at the Philadelphia University. I think this is a great subject to be talking about, and I really appreciate the warm invitation that you have given me. I've been at the University of Delaware teaching in the Department of Fashion and Apparel Studies for about 8 years. Prior to that, I spent my whole career at the DuPont Company, and I was always in the textile fibers department. That career allowed me to have an opportunity to really learn about almost every single fiber, but also to learn about the supply chain and how global the industry is. So I also recognize that the opportunity to have students to visit and to explore the supply chain from a global basis was very, very important. So one of the programs that I started was a Hong Kong China trip, but we also have had in the department for, I would say, about the last 30 years, a program for students to spend 5 weeks in Paris. I will also share a program that we worked on collaboratively with Philly University on cotton. So it's been an interesting journey, but I believe, like you, that we have there's a real need to get students out into the industry and out globally to see really how it really happens.
So Nioka, again, back to me. So our program at Philadelphia University, our approach is to take not only undergraduate students, but graduate students as well. So Melinda and Elle are two of the graduate students who joined us last March. And it's a 10-day short course to Shanghai, Shenzhen, and Hong Kong. And the students earn 3 credits for attending, and there's a program fee that covers the air, hotel, and ground transportation, breakfast, and some other meals as well. So it's affordable for students, but it's an amazing opportunity for students to, as Martha mentioned, just learn more about the global supply chain of fashion and what it entails. You don't get an opportunity to see it too often, and I always tell students, when you're a student, it's the best time to go and take advantage, because when you're working, you know, I was up at 7 a.m., you would go into the factories by 8, 9 a.m., and you're jumping from factory to factory all day. It's really gruesome when you go abroad. So this is a great opportunity for them to see and explore not just the supply chain, but also the amazing culture and different ways of seeing how, you know, you have to communicate with the manufacturers and owners on a regular basis. So our program last year, we were able to take, in addition to the fashion students, we were able to take some industrial design students as well. So there were 5 or 6 industrial design students, and what's interesting, we just received a letter from one of the students just thanking us for the opportunity, because he's now working with some of those suppliers in China on a daily basis. So I always tell students, again, you never know where you may end up, so it's really important that you take advantage of these opportunities. While we are in Shanghai, Shenzhen, and Hong Kong for 10 days, we take the students to a number of different fashion companies. So Luan Tai is one of the largest suppliers for actually Walmart. They do well over 80% of sourcing for Walmart and other companies, fashion companies. We also take the students to Regina Miracle. Regina Miracle produces for Victoria's Secret. We also take them to Deluxe. Deluxe produces for Coach and Michael Kors. We take them to Joyson, which is a full package facility. And what I mean by a full package is that they're able to do anything from designing, producing, sourcing materials from you. And one of our success stories is Melinda, who has a small business, and she was able to utilize that company in order to get her samples and production merchandise made. So that's just one success story where we have others who are interested. So it's just really nice for students to be able to go to the facilities and see, like, wow, I can actually get products produced in China and learn the supply chain process and learn how to source, and cost, and of course is important. So Melinda, do you want to touch on that a little bit?
Definitely, Melinda. It was truly a great experience. Not only the fact that they're very great communicating people, or business professionals, but they also have this mindset of working as one, and their goal is, all of our goals is just to make money, but they really care, and they're very informative, and they're very knowledgeable and truly understanding professional people. And I am truly blessed to be able to go to that China trip. It was truly an amazing experience.
So you have your own business, right? You have your own line.
Yeah.
So can you tell us what that line encompasses?
So the name of the brand is called Recluse Lafon, and it's a woman contemporary wear. We assort from tops, bottoms, jackets, and dresses. And again, working with Joyson, they were able to produce samples, and the turnaround was very quickly. It was, I'll give you guys an example. We had a situation where they gave me the wrong color dress, and our buyer was going into a show in Wisconsin, and I told one of the production assistants, and I said, this is the wrong color, and they were able to give me a sample within a week and have it shipped and for free. So again, I've worked with other full packaging companies before, but Joyson is truly the best. Like, they're awesome.
That's great. So Tom, would you mind just sharing? So what Tom and I have done over the course of the years that we've planned the course to China, the cost can be rather expensive for students, and we've really worked hard to leverage our contacts, all those great contacts that we have all across China who are on ground, that we've been doing business with, to kind of cut out the middleman and go to them directly to help us plan such an amazing opportunity for the students. And Tom goes to China 4 or 5 times a year anyway, so we definitely use him and appreciate him for being able to make some of those appointments and visits and scheduling just contacts. So Tom, do you mind sharing with us more information about Joyson and how we made that connection?
Yes, this is Tom Fong. Yes, before I get to that question, let me just maybe share with the audience a little bit about that. Since this Nioka started this program in 2009, over the last many years, we have taken over 120 Philadelphia University students to China. And when they get back, they really sort of, from my perspective, truly understand the whole global fashion ecosystem. There's an Asian saying that says something like, I hear, I forget. I see, I remember. I do, and I understand. And I think Melinda's is a great example of that sort of saying. The fact that you get the opportunity to meet these people now. How we get to know Joyson, which again was like sort of networking. I have a friend of mine from Hong Kong that I met many years ago. I know her brother. We went to school together at some point in time. She then formed an Australian company partnership with a Shanghai company, fundamentally to export LED lights and solar panels to New Zealand and Australia. Through that contact, I got to know the wife of one of the guys that works there that happens to know the Joyson people. And Joyson fundamentally was founded by a husband and wife team. One is a fashion designer, one's a textile designer. So they basically created a business. Now, you think about that. The beauty about the global fashion business is roughly about $1.2 to $1.3 trillion, totally global, and expected to grow around 5% a year. So in 10 years, by the time of 2025, this industry is going to be roughly $2.5 trillion. And so within that, obviously, there's many different opportunities for career opportunities for our students. And of course, Melinda, you took the route basically starting your own business, So you're creating basically what I call it sort of like an enterprise sort of piggyback to the Asian supply chain. You do all the design, you do all the marketing here in the U.S. You source the manufacturing from Asia. You bring it back and you merchandise it in the U.S. or maybe in North America. To me, it's the same model that Apple is doing. Apple, the last time I looked at it, is about roughly $150 billion business. They design in the U.S., they manufacture in China, they bring it back to the U.S., they merchandise and market. So when you think about it, then the whole global supply chain applies to just about any industries. Like Martha, you in the textile fiber business, with DuPont. So that's really kind of pretty unique. So where do we go from here now? I could see that Melinda, you would represent a small percentage of us that maybe to create sort of like an entrepreneurship workshop or center here in Philly, that would create sort of like a conduit between Philadelphia University to Asia.
Yeah.
So then people could sort of piggyback on that template and maybe go there and design watches and shoes and belts and accessories and whatnot.
Yeah, that sounds really, Melinda, that sounds really awesome.
She likes the $1 billion.
I do.
She's taking us all out to dinner if she makes the $1 billion.
So recently, Martha took students to Hong Kong, as she mentioned. Would you like to talk a little bit about that experience and the planning? We had some discussions about the planning and the cost. And
yes, absolutely. First, this is Martha Carper from Fashion and Apparel Studies at the University of Delaware. And as I began to put this program together, I had called Nioka, and we had collaborated on another project, and I asked her what kind of projects, trips you had in Asia. And then she immediately told me to call Tom, and I called Tom, and they both shared their thoughts and their ideas about the program. And we took a slightly different track in that we spent 2 weeks in Hong Kong and basically a week in China. And we were just in Shenzhen. But if I could divide those 3 weeks that we were there, we visited a number of companies from Nike and PVH and Esprit and Li & Fung and Squell and Under Armour, VF Corp, and in Hong Kong. And then we have a partnership with Hong Kong Poly University, and the students actually got to visit some of those classes, to visit, to be at Fashion Week in Hong Kong, to see an intimate apparel fashion show sponsored by Hong Kong Poly University. And then for about a week we went to China. And in China, we were in Shenzhen. I have a close friend who works for Gore, and she is also on our advisory board at the university in Fashion and Apparel Studies. And so she arranged the trip in China, and we were able to actually meet some of Gore's customers, to visit the plants, and also to visit Gore. It really was an amazing trip. We had 15 students who knew very little about Asia and Hong Kong, and then when they left, they wanted to move there. A great trip. The purpose was really to understand the broad economic and political and cultural aspects of sourcing, and really to just understand what the supply chain was, and what does Li & Fung do in the supply chain, and what does Squell do, and so we had just a really wonderful trip, and it was quite an educational experience for the students.
what was your favorite company?
Oh, I can't honestly say that there was a favorite company, because each company really spent between a half a day to a day with us. And at VF Corp, most of it was focused on the North Face brand and how they do the sustainability and the processes that they put into place. And PVH talked about the Calvin Klein and the brand and how they think about their brands. Li and Feng, obviously, another company that's a huge apparel company, but many times our students have never heard of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really just amazing.
Yeah, I mean, just to give students a visual of when we talk about Li and Feng, of course, many of you are aware of how big Walmart is, but Li and Feng, I mean, it's called, like, it's a city in a city itself. That facility is probably maybe, what would you say, 4 or 5 times the size of Philadelphia University's campus. It's literally a campus where the workers live there, they sleep there, some of them get married on site. It's where they raise their families. They may go home once or twice a year, so that's actually home for them. They have medical facilities. We've been to facilities that have basketball courts and doctors are on site, and they have educational programs for the young women and men to go to school. So it's nice to see that over the course of our travels to China, how China has evolved into this mega country that's so focused now on social responsibility and sustainability and just allowing the country to grow, and not just the country but also the citizens as well. So people ask me all the time, well, why do you go to China every single year? Do you really want to get on an 18-hour flight? And to me, it's not about the flight. It's the opportunity to go to another country. I think the culture is amazing. And just to see, fashion, it's my life, is what I teach. I've been doing fashion and sewing clothes ever since I was a little girl. So for me, it's just the excitement that it brings. So I want to bring everyone's attention to Elle because she's shaking her head. And I just want you to chime in about your experience. Elle is our graduate student in GFE.
Yeah, this is Elle. My experience put basically the fashion industry into perspective on a sourcing and buying, specifically the connections between these groups and studying the difference, just knowing the difference. When I was there, I did a immersion into the athleisure market with China and the U.S., and that's what I did, kind of like my thesis for that project on, and it was really, really good to get a first-hand experience. So, but culturally, traveling is one of my favorite things to do.
Good.
And so
that made it a little easier.
Exactly. So getting that cultural part into my graduate program is really, really important to me.
Can you just touch on, and I don't want to catch you off guard, but could you just touch on maybe the difference between the culture in Hong Kong versus the culture in Shenzhen? And Melinda, you can chime in too.
Yeah. So the culture in Hong Kong was kind of our first experience into China. It was our first stop. Very mainstream, high fashion. It's one of the banking capitals of the world, so you get that industry part, and then you also get a lot of where everything is sourced. So that kind of gave us that perspective of the trip. And then going into China was interesting. It gave us
one country,
a lot
two systems
of the factories in China. Gave us that piece that where we would basically, if you were a buyer, would be who you'd be talking to. So seeing the actual factories, how garments and accessories are actually produced and made, was a very beneficial aspect as well. Culturally, very different. Hong Kong gave you a lot of international feel to it, and then China was a lot of it felt almost like
A different.
Yeah, it was a different animal. 2 different places. The language barrier was hard, but being with Tom was really helped us out. He tried as much as he could to
So Hong Kong,
speak.
it's English, right? They do speak English, but when you get into mainland China, it's a bit sketchy.
Yeah.
We need help.
Yes, it is definitely great to be with a large group, and it was a really good experience with the food and the people, just trying to communicate and get around.
How was the food?
The food was a lot of pork. So there was a lot of pork. But
Melinda, you didn't mind?
Oh no, I didn't. I love salad.
Yeah. I actually got my great fix of Chinese food in, and just, I mean, like I said, I like to travel, so I enjoy experiencing new food and new cultures, so I thought it was very interesting. But I'm sort of a vegetarian / vegan, so it was personally not my favorite part, but yeah, it was really cool to see.
Yeah, Melinda, they made the one of the fast food restaurants like Pizza Hut, like a restaurant, like a 5-star restaurant. Was it Pizza
That
Hut?
serves alcohol.
That serves, yeah, and KFC. It was just like this, prestige restaurant, opposed to being here. It's just like, you go in and take a make. Yeah, so it was different just being there. Hong Kong was very amazing. I loved it. I would go back and live there, but I have to start a family here first. But no, it was really an experience. And then going into Shanghai and Shenzhen, it was just very just different, like outside. It was just totally different.
This is Tom, talking about KFC. Colonel Sanders means chicken in China.
I think that helped their marketing strategy.
Yeah.
Wow.
But also, Tom is from Hong Kong.
Yes, I was born in Hong Kong, and I came to this country when I was 16, so I've been here for many, many years now. Both of my parents became naturalized Canadians, and so they settled in Toronto. And a few years ago, my dad passed away, so my mom, she doesn't drive, she doesn't speak the language, and so she relocated back to Hong Kong. So she's 86 and still very healthy, so I do go over to that part of the world to see her as often as I can. So usually it's about 4 times a year. And in between that, of course, is the March spring break. So all you guys, next time I'm going to bring her out.
Yeah.
But I also want to touch on and piggyback on the whole supply chain model, and I want to just kind of open this for discussion a little bit. I do see changes are underway, and I think fundamentally is the internet, because as we all know, the internet democratizes the world as well as business. And so now we talked about the company called Li & Fong, same last name but no relations. Li & Fong started
that stock.
That company started out in 1906. The grandfather spoke English in Guangzhou, so at the time he was able to establish communications with the foreign world, and so. But at that time, it was started as a trading company. And fast forward to 100 years later, now is fundamentally what we call a third-party logistics service provider. It's listed as a public company. It currently has revenue up to about $20 billion. But I see that there's going to be a change of business models. The fact that Walmart, for one thing, a $500 billion business, is doing the sourcing by themselves now. So, and then of course, Melinda, you are creating another phenomenon that, it's a small startup, but you're really kind of doing it on your own because there's such a thing as the internet.
Yeah.
You took the opportunity to go over and visit with the people. It's very important in that part of the world. It's called Quanxi, it's relationships.
Yes.
And if you have that relationships, you have that trust, then you can do business.
Yeah.
And so now you're basically doing it without the Li & Fongs of the world, and I think that it's a good thing. And of course, Li & Fongs gonna have to reinvent themselves to start a different business model. At the same time, Nioka and I have been visiting this company called Regina Miracle. That's another phenomenal company. They just went IPO.
Yes.
And they issue stocks at about over $1 billion yuan, which is about $620 million US dollars. They're trading at the moment roughly about $1 US a share. I'm going to investigate whether for any U.S. citizens could purchase that, because I do believe
we are looking into it.
I do believe in that company now. So Regina Miracle was started by a gentleman called Mr. Hang.
Yes, Hang.
Met a young fellow.
I had to actually meet with Mr. Hang before we were able to take students. very casual job, and you would never know that he's a billionaire. But he's doing phenomenally well. So Tom, you can continue.
Thank you. So fundamentally, they started out as a company that makes paddings for shoulder pads for jackets. Well, they went out of style in the 80s, and so then what they did was that they were like incentivized by the Chinese government after 1979. Now, as you recall in history, that in 1976, Chairman Mao Zedong passed away. And then there was a 3 year struggle, and so a guy by the name of Deng Xiaoping came into power in 1979, beginning to liberalize the policy to loosen up so that foreign companies could come in, they could repatriate hard cash out of China. So that's the time that Virginia Miracle went from Hong Kong, it's a Hong Kong-based company, went into China and established a manufacturing base. So over the last 20 years, they decided not to make any shoulder pads, but using the same equipment of making molds. You can imagine that they could bring in 3D body scanning, and so they started the whole intimate wear, the lingerie business. And they were making bra pads all the way to the finished production of the single garment. It takes 15 minutes to make one of those. And
What's amazing, sorry to interrupt you, Tom, but one of the most, that's one of the reasons why I asked Martha, well, do you have a favorite? Because I think I have a favorite. I'm a little biased to Regina, but it's just amazing because when you go, one day when we went and we were looking out the window, I don't know if you remember that daytime, and we saw literally thousands of just molded cups, bra cups, just thousands of them just sitting outside because they're stainless steel, they're really heavy, and they were in the process of restructuring some of their operations. So it just put everything into perspective, like how many undergarments, and this was just for the U.S. market that they were producing. So
yeah, so you can thank you. So you can imagine that they took the whole customization step of 3D scanning of the anatomy, and then bring it into the manufacturing of the bra pads. Innovation is really their middle name. They have under wire patent. They hold something like 100 patents, right? So they've been a contract suppliers to the L brands, which is of course Victoria's Secret's parent. They do something to the tune of about 150 million garments a year. If you do the math of $50 in retail, so that's a few $1 billion right there. So they've been continuing to do that. So at some point in time, they're beginning to look at from intimate wear into outerwear. So they start thinking about like sportswear, sports bra, athleisure, and things like that. You know, so they're basically what I call a classic line extension of the same core competency that they hold. Then about 3 years ago, they started working with Under Armour. So you can imagine that if you're thinking about it from shoulder pads to bra, intimate wear, to now to shoes, right? So if you're thinking about that, the anatomy of a pair of shoes is fundamental, an upper and a sole. So now the knitting technology now is fundamental. You could create the upper by a knitting machine. So what Virginia Miracle is doing is like take that and then actually do the molding of the upper of the shoes, and then they basically bond it into the bottom.
So same concept from undergarments, so bras, padded bras, to now footwear, which is novel.
So now their new partner now, of course they will continue to do business with Victoria's Secrets. So their new business partner is Under Armour, so they produce a polo, which is the shoes now. It's already been launched. And recently I read about that Under Armour pulling up $90 million to Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish, because they want to get into the whole collegiate sports advertising game. Which of course they already displaced Adidas as the number 2 brand now in that category. Nike of course is always going to be number 1. Okay, so you can see that this is a company that continue to grow and innovate and expand. And then the third thing and lastly that I want to talk about is Nioka, you and I co-authored a paper and we presented in New York about 2 summers ago. Yes. We said we're beginning to see that Virginia Miracle now is venturing into the whole retailing, merchandising themselves in China. Now, this is not to say that they're going to bite the hand that feeds them. They're not competing with Victoria's Secrets. You never see Virginia Miracle's brand in the U.S. or in England or anywhere else. But in China, they launched their own brands. They basically, what we call it, is supply chain rationalization. They're taking the middle steps out. They just design their own internet ware, produce it. Of course, they've been doing that for years, and now they're actually having their own retail shops out there.
So they're completely vertical.
So this is a great company for you, for the folks listening in. We could create an internship program for you guys. I'd be delighted to take you over there, because by the time you come back with that on your resume, people are chasing you.
Mm-hmm. Which we have been discussing for a couple of years now, a way to build that in for students who want to go back and spend some time studying a vertical operation from, design all the way to distribution and the retailing. They will have that opportunity. So it's definitely more to come on that component of the study abroad courses. But I would like Megan. So Megan is our undergraduate student who's been quite quiet and listening, but she is a phenomenal student. Again, she had the opportunity to study abroad, but the main difference with Megan's story is that she decided to take the route of going to a semester abroad program to London. So Megan, you want to touch on that experience a little bit?
Okay, thank you. So my name is Megan, and I did a semester abroad at the University of Westminster in London, England, which is very different than the China experience that Nioka and Professor Fung were talking about. So I studied abroad in London from September 2014 to December 2014. I took 4 classes while I was there, 2 business classes and 2 study abroad classes. And it was very interesting because I didn't go to an American study abroad school. I went to a school that was a British institution. University of Westminster is a big school where students from all over the world come to study. So my classes were very integrated and very diverse. My classes were not only filled with British students and other Americanist students, but also students from China, Germany, University of Amsterdam in the Netherlands, and other countries in Europe and in South America as well. So one of my classes was cultural marketing. It was very interesting to have classroom discussions where everyone was from a different part of the world, and how they tip when they're at a restaurant, or how they market things. And it was very interesting because they all looked at me as the American. They're like, "You tip everybody," and I'm like, "That's part of my culture. I didn't leave the United States before I went abroad, and that was what I grew up was oh, you tip the delivery person, you tip the person who gave you your coffee." And they're like, "Yeah," and people who were "Oh, we love when we work at restaurants and Americans come in because they give us so much extra money." And I was like, "Oh." But anyway, it was very interesting to get to talk to other students in this way. And not only is London, the school was a great experience, but the city was amazing. It's a very, like I said, a very diverse city, and it's a very large business hub. So there's tons of different people and businesses. And as far as fashion goes, it's a very, very large fashion capital. Oxford Street, which I guess is the equivalent to a 5th or 6th Avenue in New York, is insane. There's a Top Shop that's 5 floors. There's a hair salon in there, and make your own T-shirt and everything. Their H&M is 4 floors, and there's a DJ. So as a student who studies fashion, their retail experience was totally different. From their large, big stores to some of their smaller boutique stores. So it was very interesting. To get exposure to not only the culture, but to also some of their just daily lives and classrooms as well.
So one of the challenges that we often face as faculty and students is on the faculty side, we try to identify ways in which to reduce the cost for students, as I talked about earlier. But from a student's point of view, one of my dreams would be to just take everyone to China one day. I'm still praying on that, though, trying to figure out a way to make it work. Although Martha and I did have an opportunity to take students, a selected small number of students, though we wish we could have the opportunity to take more, but we did take students on another study abroad opportunity. Martha, did you want to touch on that? And then I'll have the students just think about ways in which you defray the cost or saving strategies that could help the next set of 30 students that we're about to take to China? Because that's one of the questions we're always posed with.
Well, thank you, Nioka. Martha Carper, University of Delaware. This project involved a collaboration that was sponsored by Cotton Incorporated. And we collaborated with Philadelphia University, Nioka and some of her students, and Kelly Cobb, who is on the faculty at the University of Delaware as well, and some students from the University of Delaware.
I will add, Kelly was the actual lead on the grant, and I met Kelly at my first ITAA conference, which is the International Textile Apparel Association in Canada, and we connected at the conference, and we've been great friends ever since, and partners in crime again, just like Tom and I. And whenever an opportunity comes to me or my table, I call Kelly, I call Martha, and they do the same. So it's a really nice way to collaborate with faculty across other institutions.
And I think the collaboration has made us both better, because there's knowledge from one institution that can be transferred to another institution, and I think that has made us better. The purpose of this project was really to trace the denim production from cotton all the way to retail. So it involved a visit to Lubbock, Texas, for the students to see the harvesting of cotton, how the difference between organic cotton and the role that the USDA plays in cotton testing. So the students actually got to go into the cotton fields. They were riding those big pickers and strippers, and that's what they're called. They look like they're out of Star Wars, but a great opportunity for them to learn about cotton. And then we took students and Nioka down to Guatemala, and this was done in conjunction with Denimatrix, and which is also another vertical. That's right, which is a vertical denim manufacturer, which was in Guatemala, and we actually spent almost a week there and traced the production process from the time that the denim arrives at the manufacturing facility all the way through until it is put on a truck at the end. So students actually got to spend a few days in the country of Guatemala, experiencing the culture, visiting a group of Mayan women who participated in a fair trade organization. And so it was a really rich and interesting project. Also, the students went to a trade show called Kingpin Denim. And
that was amazing.
This is where all of the denim vendors show all of their creative denim to people that are going to be, companies that are going to be buying the denim. This was in New York City. So the project, which spanned about, 8 months or so? I mean,
yes. It was intense also. Yeah. I mean, the students had assignment. It wasn't just a free trip. Far from it. They had weekly assignments. We were on the phone with them, whether it was Saturday morning or Sunday evenings, just to make sure that they were fulfilling, their assignments for the course.
Right, and they wrote about the different aspects of sustainability in the production process. So the concept being starting from seed all the way to retail. What are the issues in cotton production related to sustainability? And it was really an outstanding learning for both student and faculty.
So we also integrated technology, so through social media. So the students, they created a Facebook site, so Cotton Lab 2012, if you want to check it out and look at some of the beautiful images. And we also created a blog as well. So the students were able to share their stories from a very personal point of view about their experience working with Mayan hands and Denimatrix. So while we were at Denimatrix, each morning, what was really nice was each morning we would ask a different department to come in and teach the students about design and merchandising. So we actually took them through the entire supply chain process. So before we close, I want to give the students the opportunity to wrap up, because it's really not about us, because we've all been to China and all these other wonderful countries in the world, in the global hemisphere. So I wanted to give them an opportunity to close. What recommendations or suggestions as far as cost or anything else would you give?
For the future students, Melinda, for the future students that are going to China, just, pack accordingly and, bring enough money to shop. For me, myself,
market research.
For me, myself, I knew I was coming back. Like, as soon as I landed, I was like, I'm definitely going to be back in China. So I didn't shop as much as other students, but if you're a shopper, just bring enough to shop, and and I really recommend going to this China trip.
But did you hear from any of the students how much they brought to shop?
Yeah,
What's an actual figure
my
that you
roommate
heard?
brought $500
Okay.
to shop.
Okay.
$500 to $600 to shop. But she didn't spend a lot. So,
Okay. She wasn't a heavy shopper.
No,
Okay.
not as much as everyone else who actually went
And
there
spent
with just
$1,000.
2 bags and came back with 3 or 4.
Yeah, so usually what happens when we take students abroad, the students who say, I'm not going to shop, they get there and they're in complete amazement, and they end up spending the most money.
Because there's this huge mall that you can go in and buy a lot.
Shenzhen,
yeah. And it was just, everyone was just shopping crazy. And so.
Elle?
I think what I really appreciated was having a breakdown of how much to bring, for shopping, for food, for travel, etc., and getting that ahead of time. So if you do need to save, that really helped. Also, just give yourself a buffer, I would say, from based off of food. It always just costs a little bit more than you think. And for shopping, I actually didn't shop as much, but for people who I stayed with, they ended up wishing they had more. And so shopping, I guess bring extra around $200 to $300 more.
Yeah. Shopping in China is New York, and the majority of us have been to New York. But shopping in China is New York times 10.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's just shopping in stores and people everywhere.
Yeah.
And then lastly, this is Elle again, I would say be prepared to make connections and network. So a setup for that would be your business cards and also email. A lot of these people we network with, they receive hundreds of business cards on an average. So giving that extra little push of your email or just spending 5 minutes to have a conversation with them, I would really prepare for that. So that was part of what we did.
Definitely.
So we heard stories of Melinda leveraging this opportunity to fuel her business and develop her line. One of the other students who joined us last year is actually working with Tiger J Glorious, who produces faux fur apparel. So the student is actually working with them on her collection as well. So we have another successful story in the works. So another student, well, not quite a student yet, but a guest, an esteemed guest, Dominique is here with us, and thank you for joining us. What did you learn today? Anything interesting?
Yes, when you two were talking, you guys were saying different parts of fashion. Was it vertical or?
Yes.
Okay, I never heard of that, so that was something new to me. My sister Denisha Women, she attends Philadelphia University. She's also in the graduate program here, and she loves fashion since the day was born. It's actually 4 of us, all girls, and she's the most fashion of all of us. But coming from overseas, we actually got to experience some of the stuff you guys are talking about, like H&M. When we was in Germany, H&M is totally different than it is over here. You say KFC. We went to KFC in Paris. they're totally different. There's stuff in the menu that's not here in the States. The same with Burger King as well. But it was just an overall experience to get some new insight and information on fashion, especially overseas. I think it's a good opportunity for every student to go, like you said, during their college experience. Because after college, life is totally different than it is when you are in college. So it's better to go while you're in college overseas and take any opportunity you can. Just make sure you plan and get information and knowledge about things before you go out to do it. So it's good experience. I think everybody should go. If you have the opportunity, go. If you don't believe you do, pray about it. Just pray about it, see what happens, because you never know what happens. Yeah. Money can come from anywhere. It can come from anywhere. You always see people posting things on Facebook. God is great. They got money from somewhere for their college tuition.
But what's really nice, though, is for the students who are not able to afford it, at Philadelphia University and University of Delaware, we offer so many other opportunities for students to be able to engage in this global experience by offering programs that are a little bit more local. I know in a couple of weeks ago we had a really big event, Nexus Maximus, on campus with Alto University and some other colleges as well. So there are plenty of opportunities out there. Just make sure you do your homework, just like anything else. And, they have Fulbright scholars. And, if your university is participating in something else with another university, just ask and just try to be engaged. Do your internships. They may have an opportunity for you to go and study abroad. You never know. I actually have a student in class this semester for the first time where she has no knowledge about fashion. She started working at a boutique from a very early age, and they are paying for her to go back to school. So she's taking my class and she's joining us in China. So you just don't never know. My mother always told me a closed mouth don't get fed. So only thing you could ask. You could just ask, and hopefully you will be able to join us one day on one of these amazing opportunities. So thank you for joining us. Thank you to all my esteemed professors and students. And maybe we'll do this again next year and see how China and other places have changed. So thank you.
Thank you.